What's up? What's up, Milwaukee and the world? Welcome to another episode of Believers After Dark, right here on Saved and the City TV with your girl, Iberia. How y'all feeling? It's another week, 10 o'clock at night. Y'all ready? Y'all up? You ready to go? And I'm so excited to have these amazing guests with me today. We're going to go around the room and let them kind of tell you more about exactly what they do. But tonight's topic on Believers After Dark is disconnected. Is the church more focused on those within the four walls of their buildings than those in their community right next door? Is let's pray a cop-out for let's do? The Believers Cast, that's us, y'all. We're going to be chatting with the members of the Office of Violence Prevention and their current about their current initiatives and how the church and other community organizations can and should be more involved. And, it's so unfortunate. I've actually, I guess I can kind of speak from both ends. I've been a person in the community that has gone through some different things, and I didn't have help from the church a lot of times as the first person that shows up. And I've also been on the other side as a member of the church, and maybe people don't, and this is something Arnita and I had talked about, maybe people don't exactly identify me as the church member, because the church, really it's what we carry inside of us. And so it looks like you, it looks like me. And so we just want to open the dialogue and have the conversation and really begin to kind of peel back some of the layers and some of the hurt that some people have dealt with because of leaders in the church and some leaders in the community sometimes feeling completely intangible. And that's not 100% true. And then also just in Milwaukee in itself, violence is at an all-time high, and so how do we especially with social media, we become so desensitized to so many different things. How do we not put things that don't affect us directly on the back burner and really begin to get our hands dirty, and put boots on the ground? And so, again, joining me, I have Reggie Moore, Arnita Holloman, Pastor Brian McKee. I'm so excited to have these amazing folks here that have taken time out of their schedules to be here with me today. And so let's just go around the table. We'll start with you, Pastor Brian.
Sure.
Why don't you just kind of start by telling the people a little bit about who you are, tell them about your amazing church. I know you literally just left a community event. While people say that the church is not in the community, some people say, you literally are just leaving that. And tell us a little bit more about Brian.
Sure. Lead pastor of City of Light Church. We are a multi-ethnic church currently based in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. We have services, as a matter of fact, every Sunday, 10:30 a.m. inside of AMC Theater, right?
That's
in the
cool.
movie theater. It's really nice. The seats and acoustics are wonderful.
Yeah.
But I'm also president of an organization called City of Light Community Development Corporation. And that is a CDC that focuses on uplifting and empowering greater Milwaukee and beyond, right? So early on, we started about 4 years ago looking at how we could bring the city and suburbs together to see tangible change take place. And we just left, as you mentioned, a community outreach event. We call it City of Light Community Teams, where we go out and we adopt neighborhoods and we provide things not only like block parties, resource fairs, do surveys in the area to see what the resident needs are, and we also do community cleanups and things of that nature. So we're doing that every other Saturday during the summertime, and also have some pretty special things coming up in the fall as well too.
No, I absolutely love it. And again, I'm just so ecstatic to have you here at the table. And so, Arnita, you've been here before, so welcome back to Believers After Dark. And so now, people do know some things that you've said about the different hats that you wear, but maybe let's talk a little bit about what you do for the Office of Violence Prevention. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, so thanks for having me back. I am new to the Office of Violence Prevention, so I'm the recast manager.
Okay.
As a part of the team. I don't really have my elevator speech down
That's
just
okay.
yet, so I'm going to let Reggie talk about all of that,
Yeah.
but that's my role. I'm OVP.
OVP, yes. I like that. So much easier for me to say and remember. OVP, yes. Reggie, come on in.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me. Again, Reggie Moore, Director of the Office of Violence Prevention. And yes, Arnita is the newest member of the team. And it's recast, not outcast. So,
I say that?
no, you didn't. I'm messing with you.
I was like, now that is one of my favorite hip hop groups.
Right. Andre 3000.
Okay,
but literally, Arnita brings a wealth of...
Sorry, Arnita 3000. I just felt that. I just felt that in my spirit. That's your nickname. Okay, as you were, Reggie, as you were.
Right. So she brings a wealth of experience and just credibility and passion and dedication to this work. And it really is going to be leading all of our mental health and healing efforts within the Office of Violence Prevention. And Recast is a 5-year, $5 million initiative focused on healing and resilience. And it was prioritized towards cities. It was very competitive, and I wish Milwaukee didn't qualify for it, but unfortunately, we did because it prioritized cities that had civil unrest as a result of system-involved violence. And this was pre-Sherman Park. So when you go all the way back to Ernest Lacey, when you go back, Dontre Hamilton, all of it, Derek Williams. And so unfortunately, as a community, this is a struggle that we've been grappling with for a while.
Wow. No, it's unfortunate. And I think that one of the biggest problems that some people have, or that I'll just say some people have, is because they just don't know where to plug into, how to plug into, what it looks like. Because I hate to say it, I had not heard of OVP until you brought it to me. And I think it's not because you guys aren't doing the work, but I think that we are just, as lay people, we just don't have our ear to the street. And unfortunately you'll complain before you actually look for the resource. So what are some things that your organization kind of does to make sure that people are aware that you're there? And I think you kind of shared some of that, but even going a little deeper.
Right. Yeah. I hear that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because when I started in 2016, people thought the office was new. It's actually been around since 2008. Really our focus is 3 areas: neighborhood, family, and youth. And sometimes people, it's a journey to understand what prevention means. And it really is pre-event, right? So what are all of the things that should be true in our lives, in our families, and in our community that can reduce the likelihood of harm? And whether that's injury, whether accidental or intentional, or whether that's a fatality. And so that's what the Office of Violence Prevention is focused on. And our priority was for the community to tell us what that work should look like. And that is the production of the Blueprint for Peace.
Oh, I absolutely love it. And so I don't know why this is kind of coming up in my mind, but this is something I saw recently. Everybody's been talking about it. And so it's partially about violence. Actually, 2 questions, because I looked at you, Brian, and I thought of something else. Partially about violence, but I think, like you said, it's the prevention part. The way they see us was. Have you had a chance to see that?
I have one episode to go.
One more to go. Oh goodness! So you got through Corey. Oh Lord, have you seen it?
Have not.
Oh
yet.
my God, are you going to?
I'm going to. I'm just trying to work myself up to.
So
be able to
that's
see
the
it.
part that I'm having
It's
a
tough.
little bit of an issue with, because I have a lot of people that are saying that they don't want to see it, that they're not ready to see it, and maybe that's a part of that mental piece that maybe you could even touch on a little bit, Arnita, when people are ready. Because sometimes I think dealing and saying, okay, I need prevention or I need something means that there's something wrong. Or there's something missing. And I think that there's sometimes an issue with that. And so I guess the question is, are there ways... What I saw when I was watching the movie was the children, they just didn't know any better. And so I think a part of the prevention is the awareness of what to do when you're caught, in a situation with officers. They have no idea what to do. And so how do we begin that process, being honest that there's a problem of just not knowing? And so maybe it's, I don't know exactly what it is to do, because I'm going on and on, but you guys kind of take it and run. I don't know. Yeah.
I'll be brief, but I want to react or respond.
Please react
to what
and
you're saying,
respond.
because what's coming up for me, and the same thing in the movie, is this sentiment, and even when we talk about police-community relations locally,
thank you.
The sentiment is that the responsibility is on the oppressed, or the responsibility is on the target of the abuse, or of the, or the abuse of power. prevention is also systemic in terms of it. In the blueprint, in the community explicitly called out structural racism. How systems and policies inflicted on a community that may not know better, that may not be engaged in the electoral process. And we know those things are important, but yet and still we have to be able to trust people in power or in positions to not oppress the community and the public that they're supposed to serve. So it's a both and. There's a prevention definitely on the young people side and the community side around understanding your rights, et cetera, but also in terms of how do we address implicit bias? How do we ensure that police departments are actually doing de-escalation training, those types of things.
Just, as a pastor, Brian, how do you, or what has been your response, when you show up in the community? Because I've had that before. I think it was right around the Sherman Phoenix situation, and there was a lot of different churches that were showing up now, kind of after the fact, and they were not well received. Because they're like, where have you been? Right. So what's been your response or your feeling?
Yeah. So for us, we started in 2015, early 2015, being out in the Sherman Park neighborhood every other Saturday, being out there. So when the situation happened, we already knew neighbors. We were already able to come out and say, how can we help? They already, we had already sponsored a block party before we had even started having services or anything. Right. So I think our situation was a little different. So it was well received, but then there were, situations where you had to de-escalate situations because, people were upset based upon the specific situations that were happening right there. Right. So I think for us, it was a little different, but then there was also some learning that we helped with for others that it was new to, right? One of the situations I can think of during some of the nights that we were there, if you're not comfortable in the neighborhood, right, you have a tendency to just kind of huddle together and kind of talk with one another and not realizing that there are people all around you, right, that are in need. And so there was some talking okay, I know y'all want to huddle a little bit here. Let's kind of break this up. The family is right over here. Let's go talk to the family. Let's talk to the youth that are on the corner just trying to figure out what's going on and that are upset, right? So for us, it was a little different, and we were well received, but again, it was a tense situation all around.
And I think you hit it spot on, because I think the biggest issue is that I think if there is a church that isn't received, it's because they have not been in the community, and I think that's a huge component. So like you said, I'm already doing a block party, and so I think that's the thing. We can't wait until it's time to show up. And if you guys, as you guys are watching, if can think of some things that this is what the church should do to be, for us not to feel like, okay, is this for show? And sometimes it's showing up without the phones and cameras out. This is not a photo op. I'm really in a desperate situation.
And one of the things I wanted to bring up in the conversation is, and I heard this talked about, and I like Homer Blow's response on his show, is that people say, where's the church? And they could be standing next to a pastor. Right. They could be on a conference call with a member of a church. They could be on, in the presence of a Christian. But it's like the church, like you said, is beyond the four walls of that building. Nobody asks, where's the mosque? Where's the synagogue? Where's and so we should not be painting those broad, brushes around. We all should be showing up. Because we don't necessarily wear our religions on our sleeve, in terms of we try to live it out and how we engage with each other. But, but I get why people are concerned, because the church has been such an anchor, particularly in our community, back with the civil rights, movement and things like that. And so I understand why the question is asked, but I think we have to be in terms of realistic about the answer to say, the church may be all around you, but I think we also look for Masonic leaders to say, and Ella Baker warned against that in terms of how Dr. King and Malcolm and others, because if you assassinate them, then
what do we do?
Right, and so it really, and I visited City of Light Church and did a presentation on the blueprint, and the fact that it really is about how do you build and empower leaders in your faith organization, regardless of if it's Christian or Muslim or
Yeah, no, I think that's huge.
Yeah, we've had this conversation. I've had this conversation with both of you and other people.
Yeah.
About I don't go out and wear like WOC like on my chest, right. So and because I'm the kind of person that I do passion and purpose work, and so whatever work that you find me doing, I am doing it because I believe that is God's call for me, and that it is leading to wherever He wants me to be or do or go or whatever. And no, I don't show up and say, "Praise the Lord, brother. Do you need a hot dog?" I don't. And so to Reggie's point, people are right there. I think the other piece of it is that as a community, and we are the community, just like we are the church, we are the community. I think as a community, we have to be clear about what we want from the church. How do we want the church to show up? Because it makes sense, and I can totally understand where people are like, well, don't just show up when something happens, right?
Yeah.
Right? But when something happens, people do need to show up. And so you want to know that your larger village is there.
Yes.
And that they are going to be there. They're supporting you. They're helping you through that process. But also, when those things are not happening, how does the community want the church to show up? In what ways? Because I think I've heard so much about how the church is not there and less about this is what we need.
Wow. That's so huge. Good. It actually kind of puts me in the mind of just a relationship, period. When you have a relationship with someone and, it could be a romantic relationship, a friendship, whatever it is. And if you're in a place where your communication is not clear, you'll want something. But if you're not communicating it to that other individual or in the church's sake, to that other entity, then we don't know what to do. We don't know how to show up. And I think we're kind of making the same point, and I think it's a great point, is that stop looking, and maybe I shouldn't make it like a that's how I feel, for church to look a certain way. Like Arnita was saying, I may not come with my church T-shirt on or a Bible or a cross. And I think we're moving more and more away from those symbols, and not, it's still, a symbol in my soul. I don't know, symbol in my heart. You know what I mean? But it's not about me having that. It's just by the love that I'm showing, that's the church, And so I think being open-minded to that. On the other hand, something that Brian said that stood out to me, you said when your members, they did go out into the community, a lot of them were congregating amongst themselves. And so I think it is a part of the process to make sure that we're mingling and we're not, and that we're not being we're social because we're there, but we're antisocial because we're clicked up.
But everybody doesn't need to go out.
That's true.
Like there are some people,
come on,
stay in the four walls. Like
that's what I'm saying.
You stay back, cook the chicken, you be the person praying, you be the prayer warrior for the people that's going out. Some people don't need to go out. I remember in a church I used to attend, they wanted to do some outreach, but they wanted to go to a club across the street. And I said, I'm not the one. So why don't I just stay here and pray for y'all? Because otherwise you're going to be embarrassed. Like y'all going to be in there, ministering to people, and I'm going to be at the bar. Let's not do that. So you got to know your place, right? That was not the place for me to be, right?
Oh my goodness. No, I'm so here for it.
No, for real. So likewise, when there are things that are happening in the community, know who you can deploy from your church, from your, organization or whatever.
I think that's the thing, too, is be intentional with why you're showing up, Don't just show, I check mark. I showed up today. I came to the park. I helped move the table and I left. Why are you really? And then I think, like you said, it goes back to your passion and purpose. So if you want to volunteer, you want to support your church, your local church, then do something you really want to do, not just because, pastor saw me show up at this event. You're trying to get some type of clout or something like that. I wanted to bring this up, and then we're going to go to break, and then we'll be right back. This is actually something. So I follow Tori Lowe on Facebook. He has a lot of posts about the community, interviewing specific people literally in their homes. He actually was a Milwaukee Treasure a little while back. And he put up a post, and he knows it. But he put up a post with these two. Now, this isn't really violence per se, but he put up a post of two young ladies that were oiled down. Help us, Lord. And, they were bent down like in a twerk position. Got the visual? Okay, great. Pre-twerk. Who said pre-twerk? I cannot and I won't with you on today, Pastor Brian. They were pre-twerk. And so I'm going somewhere. So anyhow. So, but the thing was, so he posted it in a way of saying, the first hot day or something, and was kind of, this is what our young people are doing. He was kind of coming against it. They don't have a clear mindset. I don't know exactly what his post exactly was saying, but there were so many people that were commenting under and really tearing down these young ladies for being in this backyard in the the grass, pre-twerk, all of this. And some people were laughing about it. Some people were saying, calling them out of their names. Some people were saying it was based on hurt, and sometimes you display things that you can't communicate that may have occurred to you or happened to you. So I wanted to ask if I did my setup well enough. I don't know if I got it out. Did I respond wrong as a community leader? Okay, because I am a community leader, and sometimes I have time. And so anyhow, so this is, you got the visual of the young ladies. And so this was my response. I said, many times behavior like this is a reflection of being sexually exploited and abused. Just because they've grown into their bodies now doesn't mean something didn't happen along the way. I said, additionally, this behavior is very much accepted, even celebrated in mainstream culture. We clap for Cardi B, but shame these sisters. I don't agree with this kind of self-exploitation, but I also don't believe a woman's behavior or how she's dressed justifies rape, sex trafficking, abduction, or harm. I'm glad I said that, because that's what the post was about. He says that we complain. So I was actually not necessarily for what he was saying. He was saying we complain about sex trafficking and rape, but then we're doing this. Oh. And so that was my response to that. And so someone came back and said something about Cardi B is not twerking in her yard. And then, but this is my response. Now, did I do too much? Help us, Lord. So I said, if you think my response is only about Cardi B twerking, a Cardi B twerking comparison, you won't understand my rebuttal. So I'll just leave it alone. God bless. And then she got upset. And she said, y'all. She said, that's what happens when y'all disagree, y'all make us feel small. And what else did she say here? And try to belittle us or question our intelligence. And so my thing was that should I have just been quiet on that little part? Because I guess I didn't have to say, I don't know, that the comparison that you won't understand my rebuttal. But that's what I felt, that she wouldn't understand my rebuttal. But I guess at the core, while I'm even bringing up this, is something happened when she responded. And she said, she automatically separated me into a group that was belittling her. And I wonder if sometimes people, that are considered lay people see leaders as untangible or intangible. And when we talk, do we speak above them in a way? Did I just say a whole lot and nobody's evoked by it?
So it brings up a couple of things for me. So one, yes, I think the church, just like racially, there's the othering and sexually and all that. I think the church does a lot of othering as well.
Okay.
Right? And so
othering. Help me.
Yeah. So really the other. So
got
in-group,
you.
out-group,
Outsiders.
and and so sometimes as the church, we show up in a very judgmental way, in a very judgmental, hypocritical way. But the other thing that comes up for me with that is, yes, it could be that they have been sexually abused or exploited in some way. I also try not to pathologize everything and everybody. I just wish the church would have a better understanding of human development and sexuality, because the church doesn't give women an opportunity to be sexual beings. And we are, just like men are. And, God created sex, not just for procreation, also for pleasure. We may have had that conversation before.
That's why single and having sex.
That's why you have an orgasm. But anyway, I think that the church doesn't allow women to be sexual beings. And so sometimes, because you don't have any frame of reference, for some people, their frame of reference may be something that is more exploitative. And so they mimic what they see or what they're exposed to. But we've got to bring all these conversations back into, a place that is humanizing and respectful and provide some knowledge and depth, and not just like, you bad person, you whatever.
No, I love that. And before we kind of even go deeper into that, I am going to take a quick break. And when we come back, though, I want to go a little bit deeper into that, because I think that a lot of times when we think community, at least for myself, I think an event in the park. I don't know why. That's what I see. Like when I hear community leaders, I think about, Heal the Hood, which I love, I think, oh, okay. And then we're raising money for something. And I think maybe it doesn't hit home until it hits home. You know what I mean? And how do we, I think I said this before, and I don't know if we got into it, because we're so desensitized because of social media. And I know there's been things that I've seen that's been horrible, and I just scroll through because I just don't have time. At least that's what it feels like in the moment. I don't have time to be emotional, and that's scary. I don't have time to empathize or sympathize, So let's think about, when we come back, what is community, overall? Because now that you said that, we do need to be talking about sexuality in our community. We do need to be talking about whatever, like you said, mental health, and maybe those are some things that OVP does as well. And maybe there's some things that City Light does as well. City of Light, child. On the hill. And so we'll tackle that a little bit right after this. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Brian.
And I'm savedandthecitymke.
Every city has a story. Milwaukee, first inhabited by Native American tribes from which it received its name, good, beautiful, and pleasant land, has for centuries been a place where families could come seeking rest, refuge, and a better life.
City of Light Church is a community of people who refuse to accept life as it is and choose rather to embrace a brighter future for our city. We believe that the hungry can be fed.
We believe that marriages do not have to end in divorce, but instead can be healed.
We believe that people from different backgrounds can come together and serve God and one another in love.
And we believe that the good news of Jesus Christ can be given to our city's residents to heal them from the inside out.
Will you believe with us?
Welcome back to Believers After Dark. You got your stone? We didn't talk about that in the earlier segment, but we keep these stones every episode just as a reminder that we all have a flaw. We all have flaws. We all have things that that someone might disagree with, but the Bible says he without sin cast the first stone. So I didn't give you a stone to cast like Reggie tried to do earlier when we talked about but as a reminder that, okay, I'm living in a glass house, and if I shoot this might actually have my house tumbling down. So we need to focus on ourselves before we want to put all of the attention on other people. But I'm so glad that you guys are joining us and sticking with us through tonight's episode. And we're calling it Disconnected. Again, it's on Believers After Dark right here on Saved in the City TV. And we're sitting here again with the amazing Arnita Holloman, Reggie Moore, and Pastor Brian McKee. And we're talking about, again, disconnected. And so before we went to break, we were talking about community and what that really looks like. And I said that for some reason in my brain, even though I know it's more, when I think about I'm going to a community event, it's an outdoor festival of some sort, or it's book bags for the kids at the end of the year or at the beginning of the school year. And there's so much more to community, and there's so much more. And I think the more we know about what there is, the more we'll understand how we can contribute. Because we say, oh, okay, well, that's community too. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it was Mother Teresa that said, the problem with the world is that we have given the definition of family to be too small.
Wow.
Right? And
come on,
when I think about community, I think about neighbors, right? In neighborhood, and who are the people? I think that was Fred Rogers, was it? These are the people in my neighborhood.
Fred Rogers. Oh, because you felt it. I was like, oh, I want to feel it. And I didn't know. Oh, because I don't know. I know him as Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, right. He had a first name.
Right.
I'm like,
It's Mr.
You better show him some respect.
Right.
I love Mr.
There's
Rogers.
some
It's like,
respect
Fred.
on that
Okay.
But that said, these are the people in my neighborhood that I meet each day, right?
Oh,
So
I love him.
when we go out, I mean, my heart and my thought is, when I see a neighbor, when I see someone in, during an adopted neighborhood, this is somebody who is like my little brother, my sister, somebody like a father figure, somebody like an aunt or uncle, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when we internalize it that way, we realize that community is all of us, right? Together, right? And I don't know if I was to, I don't know what you call it. You mentioned it,
pathologize.
Oh, my patho.
Right. Myself, and I grew up with a small family, and so one of the things that I always wanted was a larger family, and so some of the things that have been great things and sometimes hurtful things in life is I tend to trust people faster sometimes than I should, right? But I think the positive of that is that the love that's there for people in the community and realizing that it's everybody, right? Us as a multi-ethnic church, it was important for us to understand early on that when you have folks that are from European backgrounds and Asian backgrounds and Hispanic and East Indian and all of these folks are coming together, that although they may not look like your immediate family, they are your family, right?
Yeah, I love
and
that.
And that helps, or has helped us to be able to go out and really just wrap our arms around people just a little bit better, right?
Right, I love that, and maybe we wouldn't be as judgmental of the young ladies that were in pre-twerk. And so, is social media? Is it? I know people look at it sometimes as a negative platform, but do you feel like it could be a place for real community, at least partially, or at least a starting point for real community? And if so, how? Because you talked a little bit about the groups. That's where I'm going. You talked about different groups on social media. And so do you think,
So, I mean, social media is a place. You know what I mean? And I mean, we talk about this a lot in OVP in terms of if we're going to go where young people are, they're not just at the movie theater, in the mall, at home, and wherever they are, they tend to still be on social media. So they could be in the movie theater tweeting about the movie they're watching or Instagramming about it. And so treating it and understanding that it is a meeting place. It is a place that you can, reach people. Where I draw a line with social media, and this goes back even to your post. Racism and hunger and even disagreements are not going to be solved on social media.
Oh, true.
So I don't go back and forth with people. I am not going to convert anybody. I am not going to transform their thinking. I may not even be able to mediate a beef on social media. If I can get those two folks in a room to be able to see eye to eye, if we can get people to come out and walk the block, to go to play, to events and support things like Heal the Hood, that's where change happens. And, a lot of us who understand what the world was like pre-social media, and oftentimes, people are like, man, how did you organize? How did Dr. King and SNCC and all these groups organize and accomplish what they did without a cell phone, a computer, and social media? It's possible. We've been doing it forever. And now people feel like, well, if you don't follow my page, if you don't, support my social media group or account, that you don't back me as a leader.
Wow.
And I believe that leadership is not, and this is the other thing, is about, we're more connected than ever, but young people and adults feel more disconnected and lonely. So when you look at suicide and depression, social media has been shown to contribute to that. And because somebody follows you doesn't mean they believe in you. Wow. And that is a dangerous issue that that I see right now with a lot of activists and people who, for a lot of people, if social media went away tomorrow, would they still be leaders?
Whoa.
Yeah. That's good.
Would that?
Yeah. Oh. I just want to put a pin in, just because people follow you doesn't mean they believe in you, like that. That
good.
part.
Did that just take me? It took me somewhere, and you just helped me out too on how I could have responded to this young lady. And I don't think that I said something that was just too horrible, but I think I did kind of nose down, a little bit, like you wouldn't even understand. But I think because I think social media, like you said, is a great platform to connect and to share messages, but then we have to be able to take the people that are following and connected and move them somewhere else, move them to an event, move them to an organization. And maybe my response could have been, you know what, I hear you. Why don't you join me at such and such, instead of, like you said, trying to mediate something on social media where tone's going to get probably misconstrued at some point, and then it gets lost underneath the next fad or the next big thing. And so, man, I kind of don't want to move from the leaders that wouldn't have a platform without social media. I mean, what are we what do we begin to do with that? I mean, or maybe it's just an awareness that
and social media is a tool. You know, I think the definition of place is where I think a community is where we have to have some serious conversation about.
You know, I guess as a leader, how do we, because the thing is, you have the people, of course, we talked a little bit earlier about the folks that aren't doing the work. They kind of show up last minute and they're there and they want pats on the back because I showed up to the barbecue or whatever the situation was. Or you have people that are in the trenches doing the work. And so dealing with the trauma that happens when I'm dealing with someone with trauma, what are the outlets for the leaders that are there? Is that something that we have, or?
It's lacking. It's deeply lacking. And you see the manifestation of that lack.
Yeah. Wow.
In the way that we treat each other. And, you know, I'm a believer in a philosophy that, and again, going back to social media, is because of a lot of the trauma and the pain that we have and the healing that we're not doing, even as people who are healers or trying to do good work in the community, is that we oftentimes harm each other. So if we're offended by each other, we'll blast each other on Facebook or on social media. And I'm a big believer in calling people in as opposed to calling them out. You will not get anywhere calling people out because they'll just get defensive and it becomes a back and forth. But I mean, we need to create safe spaces for communal mediation. So if you are offended or somebody offends you or dishes your program or something like that, you have a space that you can go and have that conversation and heal. Or if it's something deeper, you know what I mean? And then also self-care. And that is something Arnita has brought to our team, because I will be the first to just say I can do a lot better. And again, I'm not trying to be a martyr. I just take my work seriously. I take it personally. And we see, you know, the when public servants and when you know, government has not been responsive to harm that causes. And so for us, you know, everybody who's worked in OVP and currently works in OVP really takes this work to heart because we're personally impacted by it. And we're doing everything possible to try to make this city safer and better.
I love it. Yeah, that scares me, though, that we don't have a place.
No,
for
and
the leaders to go.
That's one of the things that's been, you know, a burden on my heart is for leaders, whether that's, you know, community leaders, executive, pastors, whoever, religious leaders, that they have a safe place to land and to really work out some of that stuff and to learn better ways and tools of dealing with it and moving forward. I just think you don't have to kill yourself to save somebody else when both of you could live.
Wow.
That's good.
Like, it's not necessary.
Wow.
And so I could model for you a better way to live other than instead of killing myself to let you live. And so I think that's important. That's one of the things that I try to bring to whatever space that I'm in, that it's not just about the people we serve. It's also about how we serve those people and how we serve ourselves in the process, because that usually gets lost. And I think Reggie brought up a great point about we see it. We see people bleeding out when they're hurting or when they haven't dealt with their own stuff. And the reality of it is that we're all human and we all have the potential to be triggered by whatever. So whatever's happening in the community, whatever is happening in the office, whatever is happening in the church, we all have the potential to be, you know, triggered by that. And then we need to be able to even recognize when that is happening. And for some people, they don't even know that I was just triggered by something you said or something you did. And when you talked about vicarious trauma, and there's vicarious trauma or secondary trauma, and some people use those interchangeably, but vicarious is just like anything else, like through the eyes of someone else, through the words of someone else. So that's hearing you tell me about the traumatic event that happened to you. I become traumatized by it. Likewise, like social media, and, you know, and sometimes I have been bad at it, but I also try to tell people, you know, don't watch everything. Don't watch all the black men being shot on social media.
I can't. Yeah, so I guess I get why some people can't watch when
you
they see
cannot.
this.
So that is the whole point. So bringing that full circle, for some people, they are having a difficult time watching, or will not watch, or need to prepare to watch because they're not. They don't feel mentally and emotionally ready for it. And sometimes people just feel like they have to protect their mental and emotional well-being. Secondary,
it is devastating.
And so you have the vicarious trauma, but you also have like the secondary trauma. So maybe that's your first responders or whoever, they show up on the scene. So maybe that's, you know, the 414 Life team, or maybe that's you when you're going out. You show up on the scene, something has already happened. You may not have been there when it happened, but the aftermath of it, you can still be traumatized by it. And so all the reasons why we need to really be thinking always about our mental health and well-being, and bringing that into all of the spaces that we're in.
That's so good.
That's good.
Pastor Brian,
Yes.
final thoughts as we kind of circle around the table on disconnected, the disconnected church, or the disconnected community person to the church, to the community organizations, just as a whole, maybe, and even a challenge that you might even want to offer to people.
Yeah. First, really fast, can I touch on
Go
what
on
Arnita
in.
said? I think it's important, and especially in coming from religious spaces, that leaders get that right. It's huge, because you're seeing the effects, as Reggie said, not just in other communities or other areas, but you're seeing the effects in spiritual leaders as well too. When a pastor falls, when somebody else or something else happens, right? That didn't start at that point, right? There were years of experiences and situations and trauma that wasn't dealt with, and sometimes we're conditioned that way, that you just deal with it, right? You just deal with it, right? And I think we can do better in that space as well, definitely. But as it relates to final thoughts, how can others get involved? What I come to find out is that leaders have different gift mixes and different skill sets, right? So there are some folks that they just naturally gravitate towards or are great at public speaking. There are others that are great at serving and outreach. There are others that are great at, the behind the scenes kind of spiritual care and those kinds of things. I think it's important for us again, when I say family, I'm talking about everybody in the community, is if you are a leader of an organization and you don't have that gift mix or that skill set, to reach out to somebody who does. One of the things early on when going through pastoring and training and leadership, it was understood that if you don't have that strength, you get somebody else that can play to a weakness that you have, right? There are tons of great organizations in our area that are doing some great things, right? So reach out. Don't make it so much of a competitive thing. Here in our area, we know that it tends to be so siloed and it seems to be so competitive, right? But it's important that if there is somebody else that's doing something great in the community, reach out to them. Let's say, how can I partner with you, right? In order for everybody else to be touched and for our community as a whole to be healed. I think that's important.
I love it. Pastor Brian, tell people how they can connect to your ministry once again, where it's located and all of that.
Sure. City of Light Church, we are located in theater number 7 inside of AMC Movie Theater in Mayfair Mall. Our website is mycityoflight.com, as well as the community organization, the CDC, is cityoflightcdc.org.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Arnita, parting words, final words?
I would say my final words are just around your question about community. I mean, community is a group of people that have a shared belief system, thoughts, characteristics, ideas, whatever. And so they're all different kinds of communities and sub-communities or whatever. But I think I know we are a community, and we need to figure out how to really function as a community, and to speak each other's language, because in most cases people want the same thing. They're just saying it very differently.
No, I love it. And Arnita, tell people again how they can connect to you. I know you connected with OVP, but then also, outside of that too.
Yeah, so I'm a licensed professional counselor. I do have a private practice, but I'm shifting what that looks like right now. So I'm in a transition mode, right?
Yeah.
Right, because
I
love seeing clients. However, I just don't have the capacity to see one-on-one as many people as would need to or like to be seen. So I'm very limited on any number of people that I would see, and really focusing my other efforts on more speaking, workshops, training, that kind of thing.
Love it. I'm here for it. Reggie Moore.
A couple of things.
Yes, come on, notes.
So I'm a member of Parkland Assembly of God Church, and Bishop Harvey. One of the things that he says is, "Don't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good."
Yes,
and so I think that's a powerful word of advice connected to this conversation about where is the church and how we show up. I want to encourage people, if you're watching this on Facebook, to look for Pastor Walter Lanier in the Miracle Network, which is a basically group of faith organizations committed to mental health. Also happening today, and I know it may be too late by the time this airs, is Praise for Peace that's happening in Garden Homes Park, and then Youthquake, which happens on 16th and Center, led by Pastor Ken Hughes. Powerful event, 1,000, it has to be 1,000 from the population I saw there last summer of young people and families. So definitely encourage the faith community to support Pastor Hughes in that effort. And then also I want to put a plug for the trauma response program.
Yeah, please.
So this is a partnership between the OVP and the Behavioral Health Division at Milwaukee County, basically free counseling support for children that have witnessed any form of violence. So whether that's domestic violence, a shooting, a fight.
That's awesome.
And so this is the number to call for that is 414-257-7621. Again, that's 257-7621, and that'll get you directly in touch with the Child Mobile Crisis Team at Milwaukee County. So those are just the parting things that I want to share, and encourage people to check out the Blueprint for Peace at 414forlife.com.
Absolutely.
Can you mention
it.
Style and Substance? Because we've got more trainings coming up for Style and
Style and
Substance.
Substance. I like that name.
Absolutely. So Style and Substance is a program of recast that basically trains barbers, style, nail technicians in understanding trauma and mental health, and not necessarily become counselors, but to be, because we know informally, I don't know about y'all, but my barber or whatnot, is sort of a quasi-therapist for me. So we tend to just talk about what's going on in our lives, in addition to the basketball game or other things. And what we want folks to do, and what we've heard even from owners of shops, is that oftentimes things will come up that barbers and stylists feel ill-equipped. And so being able to know these are the mental and behavioral health services and supports in our community, but then also what is the proper thing to say? Because oftentimes, especially, brothers may say, "Man, that sounds bad. I hope, I'll be praying for you," or, good luck with that, as opposed to saying, "Yo, I know Kwaku Smith, who's a therapist. Would you be down to talk to him if I gave you his number?" You're more likely to follow through on that. Because unfortunately, mental health is stigmatized, or mental illness is stigmatized in our community.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is an effort to try to, again, build the capacity of our community to be more conscious in how we support each other.
That's great.
I'm so absolutely here for it, and I hope that you guys are here for it too, as you've been watching for the duration of the show. Thanks again so much for joining us. And I guess kind of as parting words from me, kind of there's so much kind of stirring up on the inside, just in the thoughts of community to leaders to community. For the community that's looking for leaders, they're out there, and I just want to say that they may not look like what you think. They might look just like you. And then we have organizations like OVP. We have churches like City Light.
City of Light.
City of Light. See if I sing it, it's going to stick. City of Light. And I know that. City of Light with Pastor Brian McKee, that they're out there doing the work. And you mentioned, I guess, a couple things that were going on today. And that's true, because actually I had a few folks that were willing and ready to sit at the table. Sarita Campbell, they're doing some type of Praise in the Park out today, so she couldn't be here. And then also Bishop Harvey was like, next time, let me know. I love Bishop Harvey. But again, he had things going on, and there's so many people out there doing the work that sometimes it's hard to sit at the table, so they are out there if you just open your eyes to see. And sometimes I know with trauma, it is difficult to see. And I think that that's where it's important for community leaders to get connected to programs like Reggie's talking about, so you're able to identify trauma and not be offended, and not say, okay, well, they don't want help, or they don't, and a lot of times we're not giving help because we don't know, or being able to identify it when it doesn't look like, I think I just kind of said, I'm gonna say it again, when it might look like health, but it's not, so how do we really, how are we able to really pinpoint those different types of things? So at the end of the day, we got work to do. And if we're willing to put in the work, then there will be change. And so, again, I'll make sure that I put all of these resources in our groups. So make sure you stay connected to Saved in the City Christian Network, because that's where I'll be posting everything. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, or something else that you want to see us talk about here at the Believers After Dark table, don't hesitate to email me at savedandthecitymke@gmail.com. Again, that's savedandthecitymke@gmail.com. Make sure you keep your stone as you walking throughout your week. Don't be judgmental. Try to be kind to people if you can. Love people a little bit more, because you never know what they're going to. Well, we love you so much at Saved in the City, and thank you guys again for being a part of this week's episode. And until next week, be encouraged. Bye, y'all. Reggie, do you have any title, like
Just director.
Director?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should I call you Director Reggie?
No.
I'm just, that's what I mean. Like, I just want
no Master Board. Director Fury. They greased up to twerk or to fight?
to twerk.
Why was it a problem? They just want to twerk. Like,
Because they were young. And
okay, so that's
like,
good context.
like
13,
teenager
14,
young, or
like 11,
but like that,
19, 20.
I don't know exactly what their ages were, but it was, I don't know. It was in the real Milwaukee. What was, or whatever that group is. Go back in. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm saying it though. I'm like, oh Lord. So does it make sense what I said before when we come back to break? Who ready?
Reggie looked like he had something to say.
No, I just needed clarity. That's what I was going to ask.
But that's great. Well, for real, who ready to come? Because I don't want it to be. And then
talk about the
Well, you asked
yeah,
what was community.
Yes, I did. So who ready?
Oh, okay.
About the community
Yeah.
and what we're doing to help
So
post-twerk.
can we learn how to twerk at church? Can that be a side for the married folk?
What about the want to be married? You gotta wait till you get married to learn.
Well,
see what I'm saying?
We just got to do it in secret.
See what I'm saying?
See the lies now.
See?
But see, this is the conversation I'm saying. Like this is the good easy conversation. So we're gonna come back, Pastor Brian. I think you ready.
I'll go for it.